in this little tutorial, I'm going to show you the correct way to create a die line, a custom die line. I tried to show one example of this in class and it didn't quite work as well. So I figured I'd make this quick little video to show you actually the correct way to do it. So as my base standard, I always start off with a 10 by 10. Obviously, if you have a specific product in mind, you can make this bigger or larger by wherever you need. CMYK color, obviously with anticipation of always being printed. All right, we'll say create. So to start off, what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna take off some fill right here, bring my stroke forward. And now I'm going to identify my cuts and my creases. So starting off, I'm going to use red to signify my cuts. So I'll do cut, singular, not plural. Change it to a spot color. Say okay. And then I like to use blue for my creases. I don't know why, I just like to. The color obviously doesn't matter, it's just whatever you prefer. So we'll call this crease, change it to a spot color, say okay. So now I have my cuts and my creases identified color-wise. I'm gonna go back to black for a moment. Now I'm gonna go over here to my layers panel, and I'm gonna say on this first layer, I'm gonna call this my design layer. And then I'm gonna add 2 more layers. The top one being crease, next one being cut. Now the order of these doesn't matter. You could have cut on top, crease, then down below. What is important is to keep these on top of your design layer. Your design layer will be your bottommost layer. So on my design layer, I'm gonna go ahead and start to create my package. So I'm going to hit M to bring up my rectangle tool. And then I'm gonna go ahead and draw, I'm gonna make a perfectly square box because why not? Go, got that square. And then next what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, let's say this is my base panel. This will be the bottom. Now I'm going to create the sides. So with this selected, I'm gonna hold down Option. You'll see the double arrow that knows you're making a copy. I'm going to click and I'm gonna hold Shift so that I'm perfectly aligned, and you'll drag it over until you see intersect. That's how you know that these two shapes are perfectly overlapping. If you have even like the slightest of gaps, see right now it may look like that because the stroke is on there, but if you go up to View, say Outlined or hit Command Y, you will now see actually the paths themselves without the stroke color on it. And you can see that these things aren't aligned, and that can cause issues down the road. So I'm gonna select that guy, holding Shift, drag over, until they intersect. Now they are perfectly aligned. And I'm gonna turn that back off, and I'm gonna make this a small guy. So there we go. So now this is my base. Now I have a side panel right there, and I will need basically side panels all around. So still with that selected, I will hold Option, click and drag, holding Shift until I see intersect. Now I know they're perfectly aligned. Now I'm gonna make one more copy of this guy, rotate it 90 degrees by holding Shift, so you can do it in 45-degree increments. And then I will make sure that that is aligned as well. Now if you wanna make sure that these are aligned, you can select both by just dragging across it. Click this guy one more time. Bright blue means that you will align this item to this item. Center, so now I know that they are perfectly aligned. And I'll do the same thing with this one. Hold Option, click, drag while holding Shift. Boom, we are intersected. Now, with this selected, now I'm going to work on creating a little flap that will tuck in across the top of the box. So I'm going to hold Option, click, Shift, and drag until I see intersect. I'm gonna make this a little bit smaller because it doesn't need to be that big. And next, I'm going to hit A to get my direct selection tool. I will drag to get these 2 points. Then I will hit S to get my scale tool here. And then I'll click on this anchor point and go in. Now, I always like to hold shift just to make sure that I'm going straight across. There we go. All right, now I'll hit V and then click off so I can see what that looks like. And you could always, if you wanted to, if you want to get stylistic with it, you can select these 2 points again, and you could always round the corners with it, make it look a little bit softer. Okay. Next, I need to make a couple of little side panels here that when this is folded up, this panel will then glue to these panels. So I'll just go ahead and make a copy of this guy. I will hold Option, click, Shift, and drag. Go. Now it doesn't need to be that big, so I'm going to go ahead and bring this guy in. And then again, I'm going to hit A, select these 2 points. So I selected one, hold Shift, select this point again, hit S for the scale tool, and then click an anchor point, drag in, press Shift. There you go. And let go when you like what you see. So now I'm going to hit B. And let's go ahead and round these corners out like we did before. So I'll select these 2 points, and then I will round these out. And now that I've created one, I will take this guy, select it, Option, Shift, and drag. Do it till right there. Flip it around 90 degrees. Now I'm going to grab these 3 guys, and then while holding Option, Shift, and drag, and spin it around 90 degrees, and until you can see it intersects. Now, if you want to see if everything is perfectly aligned, again, go to Outline or hit Command Y, and now you can see that basically everything looks like a single line. You shouldn't be seeing anything that is like doubled up or slightly off, and you can zoom way in. This is like at 12,000%. All right, there we go. I'll hit Command Y to get out of this view. All right, so I have my front panel, base panel, back panel, my 2 sides with little tabs for gluing. And basically now what I need to do is make the top of my box. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to select both of these, a little side flap and my base, and I'm going to press Option, Shift, and drag, come out this way. So now I have the top of my box, and then this will be the flap that tucks in here once it's all folded up. So let's go ahead and make this one a little smaller, like this. And then press A to get my direct selection tool, select both of these, hit S for my scale tool, and then with this anchor point, I'm just gonna go ahead and drag in, holding Shift just in case, just to make sure everything's on the level. I'm gonna go back to A, and then continue my rounding out of these corners. Here we go. And do something like that. There we go. Now we have created our die line and everything that we need to fold this up. So now what we're gonna do is I'm gonna select everything, and I will copy, and then I'm gonna go ahead and turn this layer off. I'm gonna go up to my cut layer, and then I'm going to say paste in front. That means it's actually going to paste it exactly in the same position of where you copied it at. Okay. Now I need to make this into a single shape. So either using your Pathfinder tool and saying Unite to make a complete shape like this, Command Z to go back, or you can use your Shape Builder tool to go through and make this into one unified object. There you go. Now I need to make sure that I put this as a cut, so I'll hit this to bring my stroke forward. I will make sure that that says cut. And now we have our cut layer. Now what we need to do is put in our creases. So I'm gonna go ahead and turn my design layer back on. I'm going to lock it. And now basically I'm just gonna draw in my crease lines. So you can use the pen tool, or I like using the line segment tool, I'll go ahead and hit that one, change this to my crease color. And basically everywhere there's a black line now, those are your creases. So we will go ahead, you have to click and drag, hold shift, and go down till you reach the next anchor point. There you go. Same thing over here. Still holding shift every time I see where the lines intersect. I start there, hold shift. Okay. Go down to the next line. At this point too, hold shift. There we go. And basically I'm just connecting all the points now. They're all individual line segments. There we go. Holding shift until I reach it. Okay, there we go. Click off. Now I will unlock my design layer. Now what you can do is, let me turn these two off. So on my design layer, I'm gonna go ahead and group this. And then you can just leave that there if you want, but all of your future designs will go on this layer. And you could always turn that off, but it's good to have there as an option. So these turn back on. I'm going to save this. I'll say save. And then we use our naming convention. I'm just gonna save this on my desktop. So this is 337. We messed around with this in lab 2, so L2, and then your username. Okay, and I'm going to save this as a PDF. Illustrator is also always good, but safest bet is always just save it as an Adobe PDF because you could always open it again in Illustrator. And then I'll say save. Illustrator default is fine, save. Then I'm gonna save a copy of this. Save a copy. Now this copy I will call original. That way we always have a backup of this so that we could edit our die line if need be, because once we go through the folding process with Esko, these vector lines turned into structural shapes and they can no longer be edited. So now I have an original copy someplace else, and I will be using this one to edit this out. So I'm gonna go ahead and actually delete the original one that I did. So I can take that out, and you'll be able to do your designs on here. Now we're gonna go up to Window, Esko Studio, Show Fold Window, and then I will hit the 2 dots here to select everything, and it selects everything because I have my cuts and my creases identified correctly. I'll say check, no double lines or gaps found, that's excellent. We'll say fold. Now you get to choose your base panel, and the fact that we can go through and choose any one of these shows that we actually did our die line correct. So I'll choose that as my base panel, say continue. I'm just going to use my folding carton. You can use any of these, but you start to deal with thicknesses and fluting direction and whatnot, and it can get a little complicated. You have to make sure you do it right because fluting direction matters when you are folding. But for right now, I'm going to use folding carton. Continue. I'm going to say select all fold lines. I'm going to click the 90 degrees to just fold everything up really quickly. And you see right here, there are 10 panels that are coincident. That means basically that right now you'll see every single one of these panels are perfectly aligned for one another, and basically like this flap is basically inside this side flap, and it's like very odd. So that's why we actually have to fix those. So let me start by clicking off. I'm going to open up my box. I'll click here and then just bring that degree down to bring it open. There we go. Open the flap a little bit. Now once we set this view, this is how it will be when we're doing our designs, unless you go through and go through this whole folding process again and save a new view of how you would want your product box to look. I'm gonna open those. Now these little side panels, I'm gonna go ahead and tuck these guys in. Same thing with this one. Now you'll see as I'm tucking these in, this coincident number will be going down. See? There we go. I'm gonna do the same thing with this. I'm basically just moving them, tucking them inside as they would as they would normally be. There we go. And now we have no coincident panels. There we go. And you can see now the little, those little tabs are on the inside now. Okay, so continue, save as. Now normally you would have a folder on your desktop with all of your files in it. I'm just saving it to my desktop right now. 337L2 username, and this is an ARD file. And we will say save. Okay, now it will ask, do you want to place this ARD file in this document? Since we have an original of this saved, I'm gonna go ahead and say yes. All right, there we go. Now you can see that by doing that, these things are now, see, they're structural design art. They're no longer editable vector, and they're automatically locked. And it still has a crease and a cut layer, which we no longer need for this, but we're gonna go ahead and leave them for now, and we'll do everything on our design layer. Now we'll go up to Window, Esko Studio, say Studio Window, and now we can see our file. Here we go. Now Designer will keep it very light like this. If you go to Visualizer, it'll actually show you the color of the substrate, and you can see it's like textured and whatnot. It'll show a little bit more of a realistic view. Ray tracing is more of 3D imagery. It takes a while, but we don't need to do that. So I will just throw, let me just throw a quick design on here. I'll just do something like, just put a box on there just so I can see it. Say okay. All right, now we can see it through a design on the outside of the box. But now we want, say we want to do an inside design as well. Let me go ahead and zoom out a little here just so you see. So click one of these two arrows, front, back, doesn't matter, and you'll say back artwork, hit this little caret, say placing current document, and now it's going to place an inverted version of this. That'll be the inside of our box. So say I'll go like this, and then let me redo my artboards here real quick. Like this, and I'll draw another one around this one. Ideally, when you are doing your artboards, you would basically like to have them pretty much hugged right up to your design as close as possible. It's not a vital thing to do, but it's just nice. So then I'll go ahead and copy this. Let's make this a different color. Let's make this orange. Okay, perfect. Now I have an inside. There we go. Just like that. Now, if you wanted to do a full color around your, say, the outside of the box, I wanted this whole thing to be black, you wouldn't just, with the rectangle tool selected, you wouldn't just do this and put a whole color around it, because it's such a waste of space, waste of ink, and we wouldn't be able to nestle these closely together so we can print a lot on like one sheet. What you would do instead is, if you go back to your original file, on your cut layer, go ahead and copy the outline of your Dieline cut. So I'm going to say edit, copy. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and close this now because I don't need that anymore. I'm going to delete this. Wait for the little arrow to be done. Okay, let me delete this. And then I'm going to say paste. And then I'll just align it with my cut layer. And so I'm just gonna flip it around so that it's a complete fill, no stroke. And now what I need to do is just offset that that color. So what I'm going to do is say path, offset path, and you only need to do it by 1/8 of an inch, so 0.125. Say okay, and now I have, basically it took that first shape that I had, that was the exact same dimensions of my cut path, and then I offset it, which created a second shape you can see out here. So that first shape, let me change this color to something a little different. So this was our original, and then it offset the path by the 1/8 of an inch. So we can take that first one, just go ahead and delete that. And now I actually have a, change this color again. Now I actually have correctly done a full color on this thing with bleed so that it actually can be cut. Let's go ahead and refresh our view, see how it looks. There we go. And that is how you create a die line outside, inside designs, and then how to do a bleed without doing like a full page flooding of everything. Thanks for watching, and if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to me.